au Brésil, donc le mouvement est lancé, mais il s'agit quand même de voir où on en est sur l'accord de Paris. Et autour de la table, on a le plaisir de recevoir les acteurs, en tout cas les représentants des pays les plus impliqués. Monsieur Perrez qui représente le pays hôte, donc la Suisse, mais la France représentée par l'ambassadeur François Rivasseau, puisque c'est à Paris qu'a eu lieu la dernière COP. La Pologne par monsieur Czech qui accueillera la prochaine dans quelques jours. Et puis on a aussi le plaisir d'accueillir madame Elena Manankova, qui est donc secrétaire générale adjointe de l'OMM, l'Organisation météorologique mondiale. I speak in French, but I know you are all understanding French. You will probably speak in English, but no problem, you can choose your best language. Et pour conclure, j'ai demandé aussi à Madame Adelina von Furstenberg, qui est présidente ad intérim de Art for the World, de venir un peu s'exprimer au nom, au fond, des ONG, de la société civile, porteuse de projets dans le domaine climatique, pour représenter aussi cette sensibilité. So thanks again for being there today and for this important topic. Before to give you the floor, I would like to ask you just to sign our golden book. Just a small signature. And maybe I will start to give the floor to Mr. Rivasseau as the hosting party of the last COP in Paris, to open the floor, and maybe followed by Ambassador of Poland and Monsieur Perrez comme représentant la Suisse et les espérances peut-être de la Suisse dans ce domaine. Puis après, je donnerai la parole à Madame Manankova et à Madame von Furstenberg. Alors, Monsieur Rivasseau, vous avez la parole. Juste pour parler, il faut juste appuyer sur le bouton. Qui est voilà, dans le micro, juste sur le bouton en bas. Voilà.
Merci, cher Guy Métan. Merci au Club de la Presse d'organiser un débat sur ce sujet qui, pour l'avenir de la planète et de l'humanité, est peut-être le plus important de tous. Et Dieu sait que nous avons des sujets fondamentaux, depuis le nucléaire jusqu'à la fin dans le monde, depuis la multiplication des conflits, jusqu'à la crise financière ou commerciale internationale, mais celui-là est peut-être le plus important de tous. Est-ce que l'accord de Paris est mort? Comme vous l'avez dit, cher Guy Métan, la question est purement provocatrice, et je vous remercie de la poser de cette forme, parce que la réponse est évidemment, bien sûr que non. Et vous n'attendez pas, je pense que vous n'entendrez de personne ici, une remise en question de cette idée-là. Pourquoi est-ce que l'accord de Paris non seulement est bien vivant, mais pourquoi est-ce que cela demeure notre principal outil d'action jusqu'au moment où il sera repris et amélioré, nous l'espérons vivement, par nos amis et frères polonais? D'abord parce que, soyons clairs, le climat reste un réel sujet de préoccupation très grave. Il ne va pas disparaître. Et l'accord de Paris demeure le principal, le premier, je ne dirais pas le seul, parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'efforts très variés, mais le plus important de tous les efforts qui sont en cours pour contenir, pour maîtriser les évolutions climatiques, le changement climatique engendré par l'homme, qui menace aujourd'hui nos modes de vie et peut-être l'existence d'un certain nombre d'entre nous, sinon plus. Le climat demeure un réel sujet de préoccupation parce que nous n'empruntons pas le bon chemin pour réussir à contenir le réchauffement climatique à 2%, ce qui est notre objectif. Le récent rapport du GIEC, qui avait été demandé par la réunion de Paris, la COP 21, parallèlement à l'adoption de l'accord de Paris, prouve l'urgence climatique. Nous voyons tous les jours l'intensification de situations climatiques extrêmes, des catastrophes naturelles, depuis la Californie jusqu'au Pacifique. Nous n'avons pas le choix. Et si je peux me permettre de reprendre les mots du président Macron, sur le climat, il n'y a pas de plan B, parce qu'il n'y a pas de planète B, tout simplement. Ouais. C'est une formule aussi qui a été reprise sous une forme légèrement différente par le secrétaire général des Nations Unies. Je crois que nous sommes tous d'accord là-dessus. L'accord de Paris est le premier accord universel sur le climat. Il est logique que nous nous inquiétions beaucoup de la situation climatique, mais il est nécessaire aussi que nous ne cédions pas au pessimisme. Les journalistes aiment bien, cher Guy Métan, titrer sur des titres pessimistes. Et pourquoi? Parce que tout simplement, évidemment, ça attire davantage l'attention du lecteur et du client. Et nous qui sommes attachés à la bonne santé du journalisme comme meilleure protection contre les fake news, nous comprenons bien tout cela. Mais ça ne doit pas nous empêcher de rétablir les faits. Et les faits, c'est que nous avons des raisons de tempérer le pessimisme ambiant et même certaines raisons d'être optimistes. Pour reprendre l'image utilisée par Antonio Guterres lors de son appel à l'action sur le climat en septembre dernier, la montagne qui est en face de nous est très haute. Mais ici à Genève, nous savons comment faire face à des montagnes très hautes, n'est-ce pas? Rien n'est insurmontable, nous savons comment la gravir. Et je voudrais citer un certain nombre d'éléments rapides pour alimenter ce jugement que je vous donne. L'année dernière, la Chine a investi 126 milliards de dollars dans les énergies renouvelables, une augmentation de 30% de ses investissements par rapport à l'année précédente. La Suède va rehausser dès cette année toutes ses cibles pour 2030 concernant les énergies renouvelables, 12 ans avant la date butoir. Le Maroc construit une ferme solaire de la taille de la superficie de Paris, intramuros quand même, qui permettra à 1 million de foyers de fonctionner avec une énergie propre d'ici à 2020. On ne parle pas de 2030, là on parle de 2020. L'Australie a suivi une démarche symétrique. La France est engagée, vous le savez, dans cette même dynamique positive avec le plan climat adopté en juillet 2017. Nous avons relevé l'ambition européenne en matière d'énergie renouvelable et d'efficacité énergétique. 2030 pour l'efficacité énergétique et 2050 pour la neutralité carbone. Et d'une manière générale, on observe une compétitivité croissante des énergies renouvelables. Le coût des énergies renouvelables, et notamment du solaire, n'a cessé de baisser depuis 20 ans, beaucoup plus vite que ne le prédisait le Czech ou tous les experts économistes qui existent. Nous ne devons pas désespérer de la science. Au contraire, une partie de la réponse sera donnée par la science, une autre partie sera donnée par la modification de nos comportements. Ça peut être dur et pénible, on le voit bien, ça peut être très difficile, mais c'est le résultat des deux, l'action par la science et la modification de nos comportements, sous l'influence de la régulation mondiale, que nous arriverons à nos objectifs. L'investissement dans les énergies renouvelables s'accélère au niveau mondial. 1 trillion de dollars depuis 2013. C'est devenu une vraie économie. 10 millions d'emplois aujourd'hui. Une véritable révolution silencieuse est en cours. Et puis, le consensus autour de l'accord de Paris, puisqu'on parle de l'accord de Paris, eh bien, il demeure très largement intact, malgré la sortie des États-Unis. Permettez-moi de vous rappeler qu'aujourd'hui, nous avons 196 pays qui l'ont signé, dont les États-Unis, mais vous avez, qui ont retiré leur signature, pardon, mais nous avons surtout aujourd'hui près de 89% des pays qui émettent des gaz à effet de serre qui l'ont signé et ratifié et qui l'appliquent. Alors les 11% restants, il y a bien sûr dedans un certain nombre de pays, mais malgré tout, nous sommes à 89% des émissions mondiales. Et on constate à ce jour une volonté générale d'aboutir lors de la COP24. Alors évidemment, nous sommes tous derrière la Pologne, nous sommes tous à Varsovie, nous sommes tous à Katowice, j'allais dire de manière plus précise, puisque ce n'est pas seulement à Varsovie, ça va se passer à Katowice, mais nous sommes tous convaincus que nous allons avancer plus vite que prévu. Et c'est ça qui compte, plus vite que prévu. Le climat se détériore plus vite que prévu, nous avançons nous aussi plus vite que prévu, c'est une course, on ne sait pas encore qui va la gagner, c'est vrai, mais nous sommes dans l'effort et nous voulons aboutir parce que nous n'avons pas le choix. Et donc moi j'ai confiance dans l'homme, tant que nous avons l'impression que nous pouvons continuer à vivre comme nous l'avons fait, évidemment que les efforts ne sont pas à la hauteur des défis, mais lorsque nous sommes face aux défis, eh bien nous avons prouvé que nous pouvions, dans l'histoire de l'humanité qui est très longue, les relever. Nous le relèverons, j'en suis sûr, et nous le relèverons sur la base de la COP24 demain à Katowice, et aujourd'hui du travail qui a été fait à Paris, et qui en constitue le point de départ. Nous attendons de Katowice beaucoup de choses, notamment la mise en œuvre effective de l'accord de Paris avec la finalisation du programme de travail de Paris, le rehaussement des ambitions des États d'ici 2020 à travers par exemple quelque chose comme le dialogue, ce qu'on appelle le dialogue talanoa, vous avez vu. Je suis certain que la dynamique née de l'accord de Paris est irréversible. On le voit à travers les annonces du One Planet Summit qui vient de se tenir en septembre. Là je vois aujourd'hui par exemple dans la presse, vous avez vu l'annonce d'un sommet virtuel pour pouvoir lutter contre les changements climatiques sans empreinte carbone. C'est les petites îles qui ont lancé cette initiative, les îles menacées de submersion dans le Pacifique. mais tous les dirigeants importants de la planète vont participer jeudi à un sommet innovant sur le changement climatique qui aura lieu en ligne et sera dépourvu d'empreinte carbone. On va essayer d'éviter d'avoir des milliers de délégués qui doivent prendre l'avion des quatre coins du monde. Nous devons aussi songer à moderniser nos modes d'action. Et ce sommet virtuel va commencer dans la capitale des Marshall, à Majuro, avant de tourner entre les différents pays. Voilà, je crois que quand nous voyons l'inventivité dont nous sommes prêts à faire preuve, nous devons ne pas céder aux pessimistes. Oui, l'accord de Paris est bien vivant.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Rivasseau, pour cette introduction qui contredit notre titre, mais qui ouvre quand même un petit chapitre plus optimiste. Je vais passer maintenant la parole à Monsieur l'ambassadeur Zbigniew Czech pour justement une prise de position, de nous expliquer un petit peu comment se prépare cette conférence de Katowice. Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor, and thanks again for being there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And first I would like to thank the Swiss Press Club for organizing this very pertinent debate on the climate change and the ways and means how we could save our planet. I have the honor to be here as a representative of Poland, the country that is holding now the presidency of the 24th Conference of the Party to the United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change that we will host in Katowice in December, so in fact in less than 3 weeks. Well, referring to the title and the question of this debate, of course I would say that by no means Paris Agreement is dead. It is not dead, and we try to do our best in order to keep it alive, having in mind that I think, in fact, it was the quotation from General de Gaulle who said something along these lines, that the international treaty live as long as they last. So we hope that Paris Agreement will remain alive and will last. Well, but first, allow me to refer back to the, let's say, circumstances under which the Paris Agreement has been concluded, and the change of those circumstances that we are witnessing at present. But the Paris Agreement, it was a triumph of multilateralism, nested in the strong sense of optimism and empowerment. The world's nations have gathered at the Le Bourget airport, in a meeting that attracted the eyes of the whole world, and within few weeks, I guess, they managed to finish the very long marathon adopting the climate change agreement. And the idea of the nationally determined contribution, very important issue in the whole mechanism, by the way, conceived and born during the COP19 in Warsaw, was accepted by all countries of the world in Le Bourget. But now we are in 2018. Only 3 years have passed since that time, and we see, unfortunately, that our global political circumstances have been changed somehow. Being now so different from those during the Le Bourget meeting. Today we see that the wave of optimism and the global cooperation which carried us to and through the Paris talks being broken or even tumbling. The nations, the societies of the world do not seem to be so much focused on global issues. They just do not do so. And we have to do something with this. We have to conduct our business from Paris in the new circumstances that have emerged after the Paris Agreement was concluded. If we look back to the last General Assembly in September, New York, I'm afraid that the climate change and the discussion on the crisis of multilateralism was dominating in many speeches delivered by the world's leaders, but not necessarily on a positive note in those speeches that this has been reflected. So some attacked or challenged the tenets, both, I mean, climate change and the multilateralism. Many others rushed forward in the defense of these ideas. But it almost seemed that national concerns and the multilateral approach are mutually exclusive. And I'm afraid it's just a fact. It is happening. We can witness this. And last General Assembly proved this to be the case. But the world planted a seed in Paris, let me put it that way. And now we have to see that this seed to grow into a strong tree. And Poland, as a committed to the COP24 presidency, I can assure you that spare no efforts to mobilize political will among the nations of the world in order to achieve the implementation of the Paris Agreement. We are honored to welcome heads of the states and governments in Katowice. We're gonna host a World Leaders Summit on the 3rd of December. And we are deeply convinced that sending a strong political signal demonstrates our will and our resolve to adopt ambitious set of rules implementing the Paris Agreement. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, undoubtedly, climate change is a global issue and the multilateral global approach is necessary while we are tackling a complex problem with an inherently global DNA. But of course, we cannot act in isolation. We cannot act in silos. The problem of silosing seems to be now surfacing everywhere in the world, meaning different entities are being very active, but they are not active together. They are active side by side. They are active being divided by glass walls, perhaps. So the issue is that we can see each other, what we are doing, but we do not cooperate. We just somehow passing by in our efforts, in our actions, and this should be finished, as we think that the multilateral approach is the only effective way to address the global warming, and there is no question about this, at least to our sense. There is no question of substituting a multilateral approach by something else. Here we do not see a B option. There is no option B, because either we cooperate or we fail in our efforts. There is no other choice. There is no other alternative. But on the other hand, and we should bear this in mind, climate action is a national issue, and we must focus on the internal domestic dynamics in order to move forward. The current political dynamics in the world is directly related to this notion, because just too many people in too many countries are being left behind. We should do something about this. The Polish presidency of COP24 sees the issue of just transition as an important aspect of this shift we are making, because we do not have our people with us on board. If we do not have our people, our societies, our nations with us on board, we are doomed to the failure. Without cooperation of people in the street, in our countries, we will not be able to achieve our goals concerning the climate change. Because if people are out of jobs, if they won't care about the global migration efforts, they don't care about the climate change, because they will see, but I am au chômage. I have no job, I have no money, I have no income. And concern about the climate change is not very highly on my agenda as a human being, as a member of the society, as a human being. And we should reach out to them, we should convince them to be on board with us while we are striving to implement the Paris Agreement. Because what we would like to do in Katowice, we would like implement the Paris Agreement. We want to transit from the stage of agreeing upon something to the stage of implementation of this agreement that has been already achieved. In fact, indeed, as distinguished Ambassador Rivasseau has said, there are countries that have withdrawn, there are countries that have voiced very strong opposition, very strong doubts about the Paris Agreement. What we should do, we should convince them to return. Please, come back. Because without you, without your efforts, without your contribution, we might not be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And that is also that will also be the part of our efforts as the president of the COP24. Well, in fact, the latest IPCC 1.5 Celsius degree report leaves no doubt that the climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and a kind of a common concern for the whole humankind. And parties to the Paris Agreement recognize the need for an effective and a progressive response to the urgent threat of climate change on the basis of the best available scientific knowledge. And to do so, to take this into account, is one of the fundamental features of the COP 2024. So, as I said, the most important goal is to transform the Paris Agreement into the Paris regime and finalize the Paris Agreement work program. This Paris Agreement work program, which contains the rules, the means, the actions that are to be taken in order to make Paris Agreement be implemented. Of course, highly technical in nature, the implementation guidelines are needed to monitor progress in climate action. And right now, this is the issue at stake. Without very difficult words, operationalization of this rulebook, we put our planet in danger. The credibility of the work of the UNFCCC at grave risk, and the Paris Agreement in the sphere of mere aspiration. So let me put it that way. Without success in Katowice, there is no success of Paris. First step has been done, has been achieved in Paris. The second step has to be done, has to be achieved in Katowice. And the main issue we are tackling are relating to transparency and accounting in mitigation as well in the provisions of support. The challenge lies there still in forging the new paradigm for commitment and burden sharing to replace the annexed one, I guess, of the Paris Agreement as categorized under the UNFCCC. So we agreed that the Paris will do it, taking into account different and evolving national circumstances, but we did not agree how this should be done. Then another aspect of the Katowice meeting, also as referred also by François, dear French friend. This is the Talanoa dialogue. This unique event will let us to take stock on collective efforts in relation to increasing the effectiveness of implementing climate policies and activities, including through cooperation and mutual support of activities in different countries by states, but also by the non-governmental partners. Now I would say that we are cautiously more optimistic, because during the pre-COP that the presidency organized last month in Krakow, and many consultations we have already carried out all around the world, we saw that against all odds, there is a clear resolve, a clear willingness to operationalize the Paris Agreement work program. So we have detected this based on the consultations and very thorough talks with the member states. So I believe that we can say that it is not our desire to find a way forward that includes great challenge, because our desire is to find a way forward that is feasible and that is workable and that is in reality ready to be implemented. I know that the task is not easy, but we have hope. We have hope based on the work that has been done already, and we see that member states should strike a balance between the needs and the national concerns and the requirements and the objectives. And we would be ready to employ such an approach towards the member states. We want to be a good facilitator, providing a platform, a forum for cooperation, for reaching agreements on the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So, having said that, I will conclude by saying we are ambitious, but not overly ambitious. We are ambitious in a realistic way, because at the end of the day, what really counts, it is putting into action what has been agreed. And it is up to the member states, it is up to the nations, up to the societies, up to the non-governmental actors, up to all stakeholders involved in the process. So we would like to make it easier for them to achieve this goal. I think I'm talking too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. So it opened, yes, not the floor, but the perspective on Katowice next COP. Thanks again. Now I would like to give the floor to my compatriot, Mr. Franz Xaver Perrez, Ambassador Perrez, who is in charge of this topic in our foreign ministry. So, Monsieur Perrez.
Thank you very much. I will speak in English, just to build on that, and the basic reason is because most of the terminology is English, and so it will be much more precise if I'm allowed to speak in English and not in French. And first, let me apologize. I will have to leave at the 5:15 because as Ambassador for the Environment, I'm not only responsible for climate change, but also for mercury. And right now we have the Minamata We have right now the Minamata Convention going on, and I have a meeting with some key actors at 5:30 just to find solutions to certain issues. So let me just jump directly into the topic. I think it's interesting that first 3 ambassadors are speaking because, of course, the Paris Agreement was something negotiated between governments, between ambassadors, but finally the Paris Agreement is not so ambassadorial as it sometimes might be seen. At the end, this is something that is really relevant for the reality on the ground. And one of the most important provisions, I would say, from the Paris Agreement is Article 2.1c on the objective, which says that all financial flows should become climate friendly, should be in line with what is needed from a climate change perspective, and that means that all financial flows, not only public funding, and that shows what has to change is the reality on the ground. But in order that the reality on the ground is changing in order that all financial flows become compatible with the climate change objectives. Of course, we need also robust rules. And the Paris Agreement is setting the first set of robust rules. And now in Katowice, as you have said, we will have now to adopt the implementing guidance. You have, Ambassador Czech, just referred to the fact that just transition is needed in order to be able to achieve that objective. Of course, we fully agree, but we have to be aware that only a transition is just that ensures that those who suffer most under climate change will not die. So I think just transition means not ensuring that those working in the fossil industry have to survive. Just transition has to mean that we find a solution that gives a perspective to everybody, and most importantly, a perspective to those who are threatened most by climate change. When the topic of the theme here is the Paris Agreement dead? And when I heard that topic, I thought it's nice. It's always nice to have a stimulating a topic, because that is raising certain questions and certain reflections. And I would I was thinking about 3 reasons why one could argue that it is dead already. The first, perhaps the most obvious, some have said that the Paris Agreement is dead because the second biggest emitter has indicated to the United States that they might leave the Paris Agreement. They cannot yet, but it could be a possibility. I think this conclusion, I'm not really convinced by this conclusion because of 3 facts. First of all, I think the interesting thing is that after the US has announced that they might retire or withdraw from the Paris Agreement, the reaction was not that others have followed. The reaction was just the contrary. I remember when we were in Marrakesh at the COP, when the elections came in, the results of the elections, the reaction was just the contrary. All the others just stayed firm with the Paris Agreement. Secondly, also, I think, and several have referred to that, it's also a fact that the United States is more than the White House. And we have many states of the US, many private actors who are deeply committed, to remain deeply committed to the Paris Agreement. So there are many indications that even if the US would leave, but we are not that sure that they will leave, this does not mean the death of the agreement. So I think this cannot be the reason. Well, the second, perhaps a little bit more sophisticated, but perhaps also more robust argument to say, well, is the Paris Agreement dead? That is not the US, but it is a fact that some of the biggest emitters of the world, who are not least developed country, but have reached a certain level of economic strength, that some of the biggest emitters are indeed fundamentally challenging what has been agreed in Paris. And you have said it, the big step of Paris was to establish a regime that is in principle, that is applicable to all, that is establishing the same legally binding obligations for all, with certain flexibility based on the capacity, but it is in principle the same legally binding commitment by all. And some of the biggest emitters are challenging that, the like-minded developing countries. And the split that we are facing now is not between developed and developing countries, it's between those who are, if you look at their reality, these are countries with big emissions, these countries who we need in order to be able to solve the climate change challenge. Because without these big emitters, we will not be able. That together they make much more than all the emissions together of the Kyoto countries, for example. If they do not engage, Paris will fail. And indeed, we note in the negotiations, they try to weaken the rules for themselves. And if that would succeed, if we would conclude in a system that treats China not as one of the biggest emitters of the world, as the biggest emitters of the world, but that treats China in the same manner like Ethiopia or Marshall Island, then I think Paris has failed. But that leads me to the third point. I think, first of all, well, it's difficult to argue that Paris is already dead because perhaps it's not yet born, because it will start to work on 2020. So this regime will begin on 2020, and we still have time up to 2020 to agree on the rules that are needed and to engage on the Paris Agreement. So it will not be Katowice that decides necessarily on whether the Paris Agreement will be operational past 2020. But of course we hope that we will be able to agree and adopt in Paris the needed rules and the needed requirements so that Paris can flush and can work. I think that is absolutely clear. But the big risk of Katowice is not that we are not able to agree on robust rules. The big risk of Katowice is that we risk that we may agree on rules that are not robust enough. And that's the worst outcome of Paris. I think we have to be aware of that. The worst outcome of Katowice is not that we are not able to conclude on the 16th of December with adoption of a result. The worst outcome of Katowice is if we agree in Katowice on rules that are undoing Paris. And this possibility exists, and therefore I think I'm really concerned, because also some of European actors say the most important thing is to have an outcome of Katowice. You never start negotiations by such an approach, because if you say the most important outcome is to have an outcome of Katowice, your partner knows they can't get everything for you what you want. So that's not a good starting point. And many of, also including European countries, take that position. So the most important thing of Katowice is to avoid anything that is undoing Paris. And we prefer to have a COP peace instead of having an outcome. But of course, that's not the preferred outcome. The preferred outcome is really that we will be able to agree in Paris on robust rules. And as you have said, the pre-COP was quite a positive moment. You felt certain positivism at the pre-COP, at ministerial level, at lead negotiator level, but at the same time, this positive spirit was not precise enough to be grasped. I think everybody agrees that yes, Paris is important. Everybody agrees, yes, we will have to implement Paris. But then when it comes to the nitty-gritty, to the commas and to the precise formulation, there I think there are still some fundamental issues that need to be resolved. So what will be the big challenges of Katowice? I think the big challenge will, on the one side, be time, because we have all the options on the table. I think nobody can say that we know all the options on the table. We also have a pretty good feeling where the landing zone is, and we don't know where the sticky problems are, which will really be difficult to solve. We know that. But we have so much text that it will be difficult to focus on this landing ground in an ambitious and robust manner. I think that's one challenge. Secondly, like in all multilateral negotiations, sometimes if too many see too much text, it's then difficult to agree quickly within 1.5 weeks on what is needed to deliver. So that will be a challenge. And therefore, I think it will be important that the pressure is big on delegations to deliver. This is important, that the pressure to all negotiators will be, you have to deliver. And that's the reason why the leaders' event makes sense at the beginning. Because the leaders' event at the beginning of Katowice is not there because the leaders will solve the complicated formulations about the information that is needed to ensure clarity, transparency and understanding of the INDCs and the NDCs. That's not their task. Their task is to give a clear signal, we want that you will deliver. And then we will have to work hard over 2 weeks, as we are used to do so. We will need the motivating and stimulating support from the Polish presidency, and I'm positive about that. I will get that. And in the second week, we will also need the leadership of the Polish presidency, as we have benefited from in Paris. And that will be now the last point. What made us agreeing in Paris to such a robust agreement? And that was the transition from the first to the second week. And that will be a very difficult step in Katowice. We were in a similar situation before Paris. It was simpler because it was a political agreement and not the technical rules. That was simpler. But we had also a lot of text. And I was responsible for facilitating the mitigation part of the, so that's Article 4 now of the Paris Agreement. And then at the end of the first week, we had to finalize the text area and hand it over to the French presidency. And they sat together with Laurence Ljubljana, who was the one taking over, and we went through all the different open issues. And they have learned something from her, which I think was the reason why Paris was a success. As an honest facilitator, I just tried to show her what I think where the landing ground is. And on most of the areas, we were agreeing on the same issues. We were both, of course, a little bit biased towards ambition, but we have to be neutral as well. But there was one point where she proved me that I was totally wrong. That was on the long-term strategies, long-term emission development strategies. So that countries have to develop strategies to reduce their emissions over a long time, not only for the next 2 or 3 years, but for the next 20, 30 years. An important issue where very few countries, there were some moments where only Switzerland was fighting for it and nobody was really supporting it. It was not seen as very important. And I thought, well, I cannot recommend that we include that provision in the Paris Agreement because there was not sufficient reports. Switzerland and St. Lucia is not enough. And then Laurence said something very important. She said, that's the wrong approach. You don't have to look what is the middle ground. You have to look to what can parties not say no in the public. Would any party be willing to say we reject the deal because of a provision that makes sense? So the Polish presidency will have a lot of room and to space and to decide whether we go to the lower ground of ambition or to the higher level of ambition. And we hope that the Polish presidency will always take the decision and say, listen, go to the higher ground, to the highest possible solution that nobody will dare to reject, that nobody will be willing to say, listen, we reject the whole package because we cannot agree to that. And Laurence was right. Nobody was willing, all those who were fighting against these low emission development strategies, nobody dared to take the floor and say, we are not agreeing to an invitation to develop low emission development strategies and therefore reject the Paris Agreement, simply because you cannot say that in public. And that is my big appeal. So in order to make sure that Paris will flourish, we need a presidency that is imposing the most ambitious solutions to us, and we will certainly be most happy to grasp them and to implement them afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe just before to give the floor to Mrs. Manenkova and Mrs. von Foster, if you have an urgent question to Ambassador Perrez, please ask now, because he will leave. Just one question. OK? Bon. Et après, on passera, parce qu'on peut pas.
One question. Okay. How concerned are you about the departure of Brazil now? I mean, you were speaking that there was that, you know, the big concern is the departure of the U.S., but Brazil is perhaps in this group of countries that you were referring to that need to be treated would need to be treated in a perhaps different way than some of the smaller developing countries.
So very briefly, 2 points to that. Sorry. First of all, we do not yet know Brazil's position. What I've heard from the chief negotiator from Brazil, that the position may have changed, and I think the newest information is that Brazil doesn't want to leave it, that the president doesn't want to leave the Paris Agreement. That's one thing. The second thing is, well, Brazil was one of the countries with all the big differences. They wanted clearly to stay in the agreement. I think, of course, we have to make we have to work hard to keep the US in, to keep Brazil in. But at the same time, we should not compromise so much to keep them in that we undo Paris. It's a delicate Paris, but having a Paris that is so weak that the US and Brazil never stays in but doesn't deliver anymore, that's certainly also not the solution. I really apologize.
Okay. No problem, merci. OK, good luck.
Merci. Oui.
Merci. On aura d'autres occasions de
Merci beaucoup. Oui. Au revoir.
Merci à l'ambassadeur Perrez. Je passe tout de suite la parole à Madame Manenkova, qui représente donc l'OMM, et je lui donne le point de vue de l'expert.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you really very much. I'm very proud and actually thrilled to be invited here and also to sit next to Excellencies ambassadors. I look young, but I want to start by saying that World Meteorological Organization is 145-year-old organization. And we are actually very thrilled that now science is, robust science, makes a basis for all decision-making in COP and in national development. But it was not always the case. In 1976 was the first statement from WMO saying that global warming may have a negative effect. At that time it was like a scientific statement. 20 years later, I guess thanks to the efforts of the meteorologists and scientists in the world, we have created global climate observing system, intergovernmental panel on climate change, World Climate Research Program, Global Atmosphere Watch. So these all systems, which are functioning for decades, standardized based on objective observations, engaging thousands of scientific experts from all countries in the world, started producing the knowledge body which is convincing. So the success of Paris, or signing the Paris Agreement, my organization was applauding, because it's been very long time we were working to come from something is happening, but it needs to be confirmed, to the point this is happening now, this is about us, and we need to deal with this. So that is really, really important feeling which scientific world brings you, but because WMO is intergovernmental organization, every bit and piece of information which we deliver is verified, standardized, validated, assessed, and everything. So now, what do we do? Every year, World Meteorological Organization continues to surprise the world, saying that we are hitting new records in temperatures and CO2 concentrations. So we are short of surprises, because every year we are saying more and more and more, and record. So tomorrow I will be releasing new greenhouse gas report about CO2. I won't say you a word, but it's going to be higher, definitely. Day after tomorrow, next week, we will be releasing a new statement of climate for the last year, and you will see again extremes, and temperature raise. So why I'm talking about this? I think that what we see is, first of all, the governments and state actors, non-state actors, people, they stopped doubting about science behind. They started thinking, what can we do about this? So now we need a lot of new efforts to help them to feel more comfortable in the changing environment. Much of resistance going into negotiations is understood. You know, countries are poor, they don't have early warning systems, they cannot fight disasters, they don't have information to build their renewable energy systems. So WMO, being scientific and technical organization, still feels that we are the center to help countries to be relieved and to have more capable to deal with the things. So they will, next year, they will come with more ambitious action. So Paris COP requested IPCC to produce very quickly 1.5 global warming report. Well, I can tell you that community was quite stressed, because it's a lot of work in the real little time, but they had delivered. So well, last month I was in Korea, the report is issued, it's global warming 1.5. So what are the news? Just to say that during COP, I personally and my delegation, my team, we have been advising governments whether or not Paris Agreement may have the words as much as possible below 2 degrees. So we were saying it must be possible. So now there is scientific assessment whether it's possible or not. So what does it say? It says it's not impossible. So physically speaking, even 1.5 is still possible. Physics is there. However, we need a lot of ambition, new ambition, to go faster and quicker. The CO2 and greenhouse gases we have now in the system of Earth would not go to 1.5. So if we stop breathing right now, we will not warm to 1.5. This is a physical fact. However, the current emission rate, we would be at 3-4 degrees by 2100. Is the current emission rate. Again, I don't want to anticipate the forthcoming report of UNEP. They report UN Environment, they call themselves now. So they report GAP, it's emission report. So it's next week will be emission report, we will see. But we are also hearing from UNFCCC and from the Talanoa dialogue report that besides governments who are committing indices, there is also non-state actors which are registering their commitments. Cities, regions, enterprises. So this is start becoming the movement. So everyone wants to put my contribution on the plate. So Talanoa report says that if all that is done, we would be on track by 2 degrees. If all that is done. So that is a challenge for Katowice, that if becomes will or shall. Right, so all done. So, and then even in this challenging situation, again, scientific community comes back with, we can do more and faster. So 1.5 is still possible. So what is new in this report, which I particularly like very much? There is a chapter saying how it is to deal with, what it is to do with this development. So the scientists looked at the literature which has a relation between climate action and sustainable development goals. And the report says that unprecedented transformation is needed to make sure that climate action can be helpful for healthy people, people who have access to food, to clean water, to clean air. So this must be looked together. It's not mitigation is one problem for one negotiation room and adaptation NAPS is problem for other room. No, it is becoming climate resilient development. We cannot develop if climate is in trouble. This is coming together. So with this WMO, what we can do next and foremost, first of all, disasters are biggest killers. Every delegation at COP will speak about disasters affecting my country. So yeah, 90% are hydrometeorological disasters. And we have, in poorest countries are most vulnerable. Vulnerability depends on economic growth. It doesn't depend on the wealth. It depends on the growth. When you see the last ISDR report last month, 20 years report on disasters, they speak mostly about the trillions of dollars of loss, but what actually worries me more is that the loss in terms of GDP, because poor countries sometimes can lose 400% of their GDP in just one go of the tropical cyclone. What do we see in WMO? Half of the least developed countries do not have good early warning systems, so they will continue to be concerned in the COPs if they don't have that. So I will not give you a long lecture about why we're doing this, but I'm just trying to say that we know that and we are doing something to help them to have access to early warning systems and to this critical information. What else we can do? Climate services. So today, 38% of NDCs have a requirement to have a climate service capability in country. What does it mean? So one simple example. Last week, Switzerland, we are in Swiss, Switzerland has released climate scenarios, CH 2018. So it's a new climate scenarios, what Swiss would become in 2050 if the climate regime remains as it is projected. Not very good news. Drier, hotter, less snowy, heavier landfall, and there are some nuances on more heat waves, on more intense precipitation, but overall more dry. How high would be the zero line, where the snow would stop. So this gives very specific things to the economy and to the society, how to react on this. So it is job of WMO for every country to have such scenario, for every city to have such scenario. Scientifically, it's still a big challenge because I can tell everything we know about the Earth system, but where it comes to the local scale, our models still need to be a little bit improved. So this is part of. Another example of climate service is for energy, renewable energy, whether or not solar insolation is enough in my country, what it would be in the next 20 years, because all these expensive constructions are standing for a long time. Or for health, we have been working with World Health Organization. Last month they had a first conference on air quality in health. They say 7 million premature deaths because of air quality can no longer be the case. They want to halve this amount by 2050 or even two-thirds by 2030. A very ambitious target. What we can do. So that is a question which we are always asking themselves, what we can do to help. One just last example I would like to give you is that the concentration of atmospheric greenhouse gases. So there is a fundamental difference between what we emit and what stays in the atmosphere. And what we worry about, what stays, because CO2 stays in the atmosphere for hundreds of thousands of years. It's very, very long-lived gas. Okay? So what is already there is going to be there. IPCC report 1.5 says if you want to get to 1.5, by 2030 we should reduce current emissions by 45% drop, and then by 2050 we should come to the world with a zero net emissions, means no new CO2 in atmosphere. Whatever we emit should be absorbed, captured, removed. So there are techniques to do so. So this is possible or not. How WMO wants to help? The system which we are using to report on the global concentration, what stays in the atmosphere, we are now created methodology so the countries or even cities or regions, subnational level, can use not just the formula how much my plant emits, but measurements, stations, and the models to see what emits, how much emits, and what sinks, so where it goes, because then the country may have a good understanding, scientifically based on what is a contribution to the atmosphere. Switzerland is one country, first country to do that. Second was UK. Third is New Zealand. Many more are coming now. So Switzerland knows exactly its footprint, where what is emitted. Many surprises Switzerland has seen in this way. And Switzerland also uses models to see how this can be reduced, and whatever action they are taking for the mitigation, they can immediately validate it instrumentally. So just to wrap up, not even Paris is dead. Paris is just a baby now. So we need to feed the Paris with the assurances that the way forward would be good for people, it would be healthy, they will have clean water, they will have less risks, they will be less vulnerable. So that, like this, it will go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Manankova, for this precision, important explanations too. Now I would like to give the floor for concluding to Mrs. Adelina von Furstenberg, qui va parler en français, j'imagine, voilà, au nom un peu de la société civile et du projet qu'elle développe.
Merci beaucoup, Guy. Merci beaucoup de m'avoir invité avec vous, monsieur les ambassadeurs et les spécialistes, évidemment, parlant au nom, je dirais, en tant que quelqu'un de la société civile, je suis interchangeable, comme vous êtes d'ailleurs vous dans vos différents travaux, on est tous interchangeables, mais la question du changement climatique n'est pas interchangeable, c'est interdépendant. C'est-à-dire, on n'existe pas un sans l'autre. Les 4 éléments qui créent la Terre, la planète, l'eau, le feu, l'air et l'eau, le feu, l'air et la Terre. Donc voilà, sont partie de nous. Nous habitons, la planète est là, la planète ne peut pas être changée comme M. l'ambassadeur a bien souligné. Mais ces 4 éléments sont interdépendants, comme sont aussi interdépendants les questions que vous soulevez lors de vos différentes très importantes réunions sur l'environnement, la population, la politique, les commerces, tout ça est lié. Et nous, comme vous d'ailleurs, nous vivons tous les jours, nous aussi on discute de ces questions avec les uns et les autres, avec le coiffeur, l'épicier, plutôt qu'entre nous. Il y a toujours les mêmes questions qui se soulèvent. Par exemple, la science. Vous êtes dans vos différentes réunions, vous consultez avec les grands scientifiques. La science, c'est quelque chose qui a énormément évolué ces dernières années. La médecine est devenue de plus en plus, au moins dans le monde occidental, de plus en plus performante, mais la société civile ne comprend pas très bien comment la science n'arrive pas à affronter la question du changement climatique, mais parce qu'on a l'impression que c'est les gouvernements et les délégués, les différentes organisations qui discutent avec la science, qui se font conseiller avec la science, mais que ça n'arrive pas chez nous, sinon à travers des statistiques, comme par exemple aujourd'hui sur Le Monde, il y a eu un grand article, mais qui peut lire de la société civile un article si compliqué? Je veux dire, il y a des tas de choses qu'on est en train de dire maintenant, mais aussi quand il s'agit des déclarations scientifiques. Alors, c'est pour ça que je pense qu'il faut peut-être que vous, déjà depuis 1970, avec San Francisco, après Rio, 72, etc., et Stockholm, vous êtes arrivé à COP 21, et le COP 21, ça a été peut-être pour, de toutes ces années, le plus plus, disons, accessible à un public plus large. Avant le COP21, c'était plus quelque chose d'élitaire. Ça restait chez les intellectuels, comme ça restait chez les gouvernements, mais les gens n'étaient pas au courant. Tandis que la communication, à partir du COP21, a commencé à être plus forte, et peut-être parce que aussi les questions climatiques sont devenues de plus en plus dramatiques. Mais ça fait que maintenant, on attend de vous une activité, disons, rapide, et en même temps on se trouve entouré de monde tellement compliqué entre les différents gouvernements de plus en plus réactionnaires contre le monde, la Turquie, même l'Amérique et maintenant le Brésil. Je viens de rentrer du Brésil il y a une semaine, car nous sommes en train de produire une série de films qui s'appelle Interdépendant, justement avec des réalisateurs internationaux, dont on voudrait être prêt pour le COP 25 au Brésil. On ne sait pas dans quelle ville encore, mais on se rend compte que il y a beaucoup de problèmes, comme vous savez, mais là où la population la plus fragilisée, plus que toutes les autres minorités, sont les indigènes de l'Amazone, qui risquent vraiment de disparaître, comme disparaît le panthère de l'Amérique du Nord ou le rhinocéros, je ne sais pas, ici. Donc, nous ne pouvons pas nous permettre de faire disparaître des êtres humains. C'est-à-dire, il y a des questions comme ça, bon, des exemples. Autrement aussi, il y a une autre question qui est absolument choquante, c'est l'éducation, parce qu'on parle toujours de l'éducation vers les gens pauvres, vers les gens illettrés, vers les gens qui n'ont pas d'éducation. Mais il faut éduquer aussi les gens riches. Une de mes collaboratrices, qui est chinoise, femme de trader, un jour, je lui ai dit, qu'est-ce que c'est pour toi l'eau? Elle m'a répondu, c'est un commodities, vous vous rendez compte. Donc, elle n'avait pas cette éducation. Donc, il faut, je pense, faire vraiment une éducation chez les gens qui ont les moyens pour pouvoir soutenir votre combat. Aussi, les fondations qu'il y a partout en Suisse ou ailleurs, qu'ils disent Fondation pour l'environnement, la banque telle qui veut soutenir l'environnement, le ceci, tous les jours, vous les journalistes, vous écrivez, mais qu'est-ce qu'il faut? Sinon chercher des clients qui voudraient bien. Donc, tout ça, nous, de la société civile, on voit. Et il y a plein d'autres choses qu'on voit. Mais on est assez, disons, désarmés, parce que le gap dans des grandes réunions, c'est toujours un peu large. Et puis, en même temps, quelque part, on se rend compte qu'aussi, il y a beaucoup de moyens dans le soutien des différentes organisations gouvernementales, mais ça reste toujours à l'intérieur. C'est vos projets. C'est rarement que vous avez des comités où il y a des gens de la société civile, des intellectuels, des artistes, des poètes. Il n'y a pas des gens qui sont des gens qui sont la sensibilité de la terre. Alors, à la fin, l'article 27 des droits de l'homme, à quoi ça sert si on doit, nous tous, jouir des arts et de la science, et à la fin, c'est toujours une petite élite qui bénéficie. Donc, moi, mon ONG, mon travail est d'ouvrir toutes ces portes à un plus grand nombre de gens possible, à travers la culture, à travers l'art, à travers la positivité, mais souvent on reçoit, nous et d'autres ONG, toujours une espèce de mur, une distance. À la fin, on est tous des êtres humains, on est tous ensemble. Et sur le climate change, vous ne pouvez pas vous permettre de mettre la distance entre le public et vous-même en tant que connaisseur. Vous devez être à notre écoute et vous devez vous baisser vers nous et parler avec nous et dialoguer avec nous. Donc, c'est très bien tout ce que vous nous présentez, mais c'est mieux si vous envoyez vos collaborateurs dans des écoles, dans des lieux publics, et qu'ils parlent, parce que les gens veulent savoir. Il y a aussi un autre grand problème, et après j'arrête, c'est au niveau économique. Si vous parlez, par exemple, avec des gens, n'importe qui dans les rues, qui ont des enfants et qui n'ont pas beaucoup de moyens, ne sont pas des milliardaires qui viennent vivre ici et tout, et qui ont une famille de 3-4 membres, ils achètent toujours des choses de qualité cheap, chinois plutôt que plastique, plutôt parce que ça coûte peu, parce qu'ils n'ont pas les moyens d'acheter, mais aussi parce qu'ils n'ont pas l'éducation de savoir que certaines choses, on peut acheter avec peut-être avec le même nombre d'argent, mais mieux. C'est-à-dire la qualité, c'est quelque chose que n'ont pas jamais dans les discours internationaux, la qualité. Voilà, sur ça j'arrête, excusez-moi, vous m'avez voulu donner la parole, alors j'ai parlé.
Merci, merci Adelina, merci à toutes les deux pour ces deux dernières interventions. J'ouvre maintenant le débat, comme on n'a pas beaucoup de temps. Oui, Bob, et puis, oui, commence Bob, et après je te laisse. Vas-y, Bob. Ok.
Robert James Parsons, the Talanoa Dialogue report has been mentioned and emphasized, and it is completely bogus. I have read it, reread it again, and referred to the footnotes and the sources. It is financed by BP, Ford Motor Company, General Motors, and other such. It is an attempt to take control of the dialogue, as described in great detail in the famous book, Merchants of Doubt, and to control the dialogue. If you read it carefully, you'll see it's full of contradictions. Nowhere in there, however, is there any suggestion that there should be a dismantling of the current paradigm and the creation of something else. If you go to the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, you'll see the overwhelming majority of violations of human rights are committed by transnational corporations. One of the major reasons that the Human Rights Commission was dismantled was that it was pushing for binding norms to control the transnational corporations. Now, this is before the Commission again, the Council now. What are you proposing to deal with these corporations? They are the ones running the government. They are the ones running the world, and there's no way around it. And they are pushing for and establishing a whole system of dispute settlements that simply enable them to continue to pollute, and burn fossil fuels. Unless you bring them to heel and then dismantle them, you're going nowhere. And finally, and I asked Mr. Perez about this, robust rules are not necessarily binding rules. He assured me all the rules are binding, so I said, what are you going to do to enforce them? He had no answer, and I pressed him, what are you going to do to enforce? That's a whole different matter. He said, we don't talk about that. So how are you going to enforce anything you do? And remember, the IPCC is an intergovernmental panel, and it's run by governments, which are run by corporations also. And nowhere in there do they suggest a change of paradigm either. It's squaring the circle. Keep going with the same paradigm, but at the same time, we're going to clean up this mess. What are you proposing that's realistic? Because the hour is late.
Influence des lobbies privés.
Surtout sur le dialogue Talanoa, hein, puisque vous êtes parti de là, cher monsieur. Le dialogue Talanoa, c'est une formule nouvelle qui vise à associer le maximum d'États. Il a été lancé par les îles Fidji. Tous les États n'ont pas immédiatement les moyens de s'organiser et donc certains, effectivement, acceptent des financements du secteur privé. En soi, le financement du secteur privé, pour nous, n'est pas un crime imprescriptible. Ce qui compte, c'est si recevoir cet argent donne ou non de l'influence au secteur privé. Or, nous, évidemment, si nous recevons cet argent du secteur privé, enfin pas la France, parce que la France a tenu son dialogue Talanoa et elle n'a pas eu besoin pour ça d'être financée par BP, mais si certains pays n'ont pas d'autres moyens, ce qui compte, c'est ce qu'ils font de ce dialogue. Et ce qui compte, c'est de savoir si oui ou non les actions que nous faisons sont, comme vous l'avez dit, manipulées ou non. Et moi, je plaide que ce n'est pas le cas et que vous avez une vision un peu trop pessimiste. Bien sûr que les grandes compagnies cherchent à donner de l'argent aussi. C'est dans leur intérêt aussi. Mais non pas parce qu'elles n'en sont pas capables. Ce n'est pas pour manipuler et changer les règles, parce que même les dirigeants de grandes compagnies savent que leurs enfants vont vivre dans un monde à 4 degrés, ils n'en veulent pas, personne n'en veut, même pas les grandes compagnies. Ce qu'elles veulent, c'est se donner une bonne image pour pouvoir vendre un peu plus que le voisin. Eh bien, ma foi, dès l'instant que les États membres n'en sont pas prisonniers, je considère qu'on ne doit pas porter un jugement a priori, sur le résultat, on doit juger sur les faits. Et quels sont les faits du dialogue talanois? Eh bien, nous avons dit, nous, que ce que nous voulions à travers le dialogue talanois, c'est un relèvement de l'ambition mondiale. Sans le dialogue talanois, eh bien, on n'aurait pas ce relèvement de l'ambition mondiale. Or, le dialogue talanois, il relève l'ambition mondiale. On a présenté plusieurs phases pour le faire. Évidemment, on en est à la première phase. C'est toujours dans les débuts qui sont les plus difficiles. Vous savez très bien, parce que vous vous intéressez apparemment à ce dossier depuis longtemps et avec passion. Et j'aime ça. Mais vous savez très bien que lorsqu'on veut faire bouger quelque chose, c'est toujours le premier caillou qui est le plus difficile à faire bouger. Du moins, moi, c'est mon expérience associative personnelle. Eh bien, dans ces conditions, la première phase du dialogue talanois, c'est une phase, on appelle ça le dialogue de facilitation avec les représentants de tous les pays qui partagent leur expérience nationale sur la mise en œuvre de politiques sur la lutte contre le changement climatique dans un esprit ouvert, inclusif, et c'est vrai, non accusatoire, c'est vrai. Plus de 700 histoires ont été racontées qui toutes témoignent d'un moyen d'améliorer la situation. Alors, vous savez, on n'arrivera pas effectivement à une approche totalement indépendante, uniquement par les associations, si on veut faire bouger vraiment les choses. Mais je pense que le dialogue talanois, quand on regarde, alors après la phase de facilitation, on est maintenant à la phase 2, qui est la phase de mettre ensemble les messages, organiser de nouveaux engagements, organiser des dialogues talanois à niveau national, régional ou local, ou comme l'Union européenne l'a fait le 13 juin à Bruxelles ou le 6 juillet à Paris, avec à chaque fois un seul objectif, qui est de prendre des engagements plus contraignants encore. Eh bien ça, moi je pense que c'est quand même une bonne chose, même si, évidemment que moi aussi je préférais qu'on n'ait pas besoin de l'argent des compagnies privées, on est d'accord, hein. Mais
Pardon, mais le changement de paradigme n'est pas proposé. C'est simplement tout.
Je m'excuse, pas de dialogue, pas de débat.
On peut poursuivre ça après.
Oui, tout à fait. Je voulais demander.
Yes, because the gentleman mentioned IPCC. You mentioned IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and you said that because, despite its intergovernmental, the governments are influenced by. So IPCC, it's a very robust body. It reports on the literature, peer-reviewed literature available. So the IPCC, I think that for this report they engaged about 3,000 experts a little bit. And any of these experts may have a very progressive ideas how to go forward, but this is not their job. Their job is to assess available literature which is peer-reviewed and to give a confidence level to this. For instance, if there is something found in the literature which is not supported by other publications, they put low confidence. If all publications are speaking the same way, high confidence. So that is the principles of IPCC work to do. In terms of WMO, which is also intergovernmental, so what we report what we measure. So in many ways, it's very difficult to influence law of physics. So I think in most of our reports, we are on the safe side. So it's or I misunderstood. But
most of your reports, you choose the most favorable scenario, and the worst case scenarios are the ones that have been happening.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. En fait, je suis prêt à souscrire à presque tout que mon cher collègue français a dit sur le dialogue de Talanoa. C'est-à-dire, we do not have any other tools at hand at our disposal than the Talanoa dialogue with regard to the private sector lobbying, private sector engagement, private sector activities. And we should explore this tool that we have in our disposal. It's not a perfect tool. In fact, we are aware of many imperfections, if I may put it that way, regarding the engagement of the, broadly speaking, private sector in the process. But they are there. They are active. And at this particular moment, what we can do, how we could react, is just to use the Talanoa dialogue. It's not an ideal situation. I would say that on the personal basis, I can even say it is not my most desirable situation. but we have nothing else. So just let's be realistic.
And if I may, et si je peux ajouter un mot, c'est aussi une occasion de s'engager avec le secteur privé et d'obtenir des engagements de leur part. Parce que si nous nous limitons à agir en tant qu'État ou organisation internationale, nous sommes moins efficaces que si nous obtenons aussi des engagements du secteur privé. Et il y a de plus en plus de domaines de l'action internationale dans lesquels nous voyons que nous avons besoin des organisations, des grandes organisations et des petites organisations privées, parce que ça crée un mouvement d'ensemble encore plus large. Et donc le dialogue Talanoa doit être aussi pour nous l'occasion, lorsque nous voyons une compagnie qui nous propose de l'argent, de leur dire « vous nous proposez de l'argent et nous sommes contents de le prendre parce que nous en avons besoin pour nos objectifs, mais qu'est-ce que vous faites de votre côté ?» Et donc ça nous permet c'est aussi un moyen d'engager le secteur privé.
Merci. Il nous reste malheureusement juste encore pour une dernière question.
Oui, d'accord. Rapidement, Daniel Vermus de Global Geneva. J'aimerais revenir sur le rôle de la Pologne. Donc l'ambassadeur tchèque a bien montré l'opposition entre nationalisme et multilatéralisme face au changement climatique. Or, la Pologne, au sein de l'Union européenne, est plutôt considérée comme un pays nationaliste, notamment sur la question des migrations. Elle montre très peu de solidarité avec des pays comme la Hongrie. Donc est-ce que dans cette situation-là, dans la conférence de Katowice, la Pologne pourra vraiment être un champion du multilatéralisme et faciliter des accords globaux?
Oui, okay. Yes. Well, merci beaucoup pour cette question. Well, first, it is just a judgment. It's just an evaluation, saying that Poland is considered as a pays nationaliste au sein de l'Union européenne. Nous ne pas considérons comme les pays nationalistes. We do not consider ourselves to be nationalistic. We do not consider ourselves to pursue a nationalistic agenda. By no means. With regard to solidarity, showing solidarity to the migrants, we've been showing solidarity to the migrants for several years. We have accepted around 1 million people from Ukraine, many of them fleeing from the conflict zones in eastern and southern Ukraine. We've been accepting these people in Poland. In fact, we could say even off the record, however it is filmed, that in many issues, in many cases, these people have come to Poland in order to work, in order to get a job, in order to get a better job. And we somehow turn blind eye to the fact that they work illegally. We do not chasing them, we do not persecute them, we just allow them to live and to work in Poland. Because we know very well that they are just seeking better life. In some instances, also, they were seeking the protection, and this protection has been granted to them. Of course, Katowice, it is always a chance for the presidency to become, or at least to be portrayed as a champion in certain processes. And as I said before, we want to be a good and honest broker and a good facilitator. We want to provide to the member states of the Katowice our best offices in order to allow them, in order to help them, to assist them, to reach an agreement. So that is our ambition, and I hope it is not an over-ambitious objective. Monsieur Rivasseau, voilà. Oui.
Je voudrais juste ajouter une petite chose. Ceux qui ont été à Paris ont bien voulu dire que la France avait pu jouer un rôle, peut-être à cause de notre tradition diplomatique, etc., dans le succès de la COP21. C'est à vous à le dire, c'est pas à nous à le dire. Mais tout ce que nous pouvons dire, c'est que la Pologne est un grand pays. Nous avons une confiance totale dans la Pologne pour réussir.
Merci. Conclusion, on aurait pu poursuivre, mais on est obligé d'interrompre ici puisque nos conférenciers ont d'autres obligations. I would like to thank you very much for this exchange, all our speakers. I think it was really interesting debate, very diversified. And thanks again. And hope all the best for Katowice.
Merci. Merci au Club de la Suisse.
COP, voilà.
Merci à vous tous.
Merci.
Zbigniew.
François, merci beaucoup.